There's a point where YouTube stops feeling like a platform and starts feeling like a system you either understand or get lost inside. Because by now, it's no longer about just uploading videos or even improving quality. It's about control. Control over how your channel is perceived, how your audience is shaped, and how your growth behaves over time. And the creators who break through this stage are not the ones who work the hardest, but the ones who understand how to position themselves so precisely that everything begins to move in their favor. And once again, at the core of that positioning lies something most people still underestimate: the About section. Because what most creators don't realize is that growth is not random, it's guided. Every channel that suddenly blows up has already built a foundation of clarity behind the scenes. The algorithm didn't just pick them, it recognized them. It understood who they were for, what they consistently delivered, and why viewers responded. And that understanding doesn't come from videos alone. It comes from the entire channel ecosystem, where the About section acts as one of the clearest signals of intent. This is where niche domination begins, not by limiting yourself, but by defining yourself so clearly that there's no confusion left. Because confusion is the enemy of growth. If your channel can't be easily categorized, it can't be easily recommended. And if it can't be recommended, it can't scale. Your About section is where you eliminate that confusion completely. But domination doesn't mean being the only one. It means being the most recognizable within your space. When someone lands on your channel, there should be an immediate understanding of what you represent. Not just what you do, but how you do it, and why it matters. And that level of recognition starts with how you describe yourself when no video is playing, when all that exists is your words. There's also a deeper psychological mechanism at work here: authority perception. People don't measure authority logically, they feel it. And that feeling is often formed within seconds, based on how clearly and confidently you communicate. Your About section is one of the first places where this perception is built. If your message is sharp, focused, and intentional, you appear credible. If it's scattered or uncertain, you appear replaceable. Another critical factor is audience ownership. Not in the literal sense, but in the psychological sense. When someone subscribes to your channel, they're not just following your content. They're entering your ecosystem, and your About section is like the entry point, the place where they decide whether they belong. If that entry point is strong, aligned, and clear, the connection deepens. If it's weak, the relationship never fully forms. And then comes the concept of narrative control. The ability to shape how your channel is interpreted before the viewer even watches your next video. Because once a perception is formed, it influences everything that follows. Your About section gives you the power to guide that perception intentionally, to decide whether you are seen as a source of quick tips, deep insights, honest opinions, or something entirely different. But here's where most creators hesitate. They try to stay flexible, to keep their options open, to not box themselves in. And while that might feel safe, it actually slows growth. Because the algorithm thrives on clarity, not ambiguity. And audiences connect with identity, not uncertainty. When you define your space clearly, you don't limit yourself, you strengthen your position within it. There's also the element of memorability. In a platform flooded with content, being remembered is just as important as being seen. Your About section contributes to this by reinforcing your identity in a consistent, clear way. When viewers can easily recall what your channel stands for, they're more likely to return, to recommend, and to engage. And then there's the long-term effect of alignment. When your About section, your content, and your audience are all aligned, growth becomes more stable. Your videos perform more consistently, your subscribers become more engaged, and your channel starts to build momentum that doesn't rely on luck. This is where YouTube shifts from being unpredictable to being manageable. But reaching this point requires intention. You have to stop treating your About section as an afterthought and start seeing it as a strategic tool, something that shapes your channel's identity, filters your audience, and supports your growth at every stage. Because once you take control of that narrative, you take control of your direction. And finally, there's realization. The understanding that success on YouTube isn't just about what you create, but about how clearly you communicate what you create. Because clarity builds trust, trust builds loyalty, and loyalty builds growth. And when your About section reflects that clarity with precision and purpose, you stop chasing attention and start attracting the right audience naturally. And that's the moment where everything begins to change. Not suddenly, not magically, but steadily, predictably, and powerfully enough to last. If you want, I can continue. Part 8, even deeper, viral psychology, audience triggers, and exponential growth mechanics, in the same cinematic style.